Hi, welcome to today's Leaders in Mental Wellness and Diabetes, where you will hear insights from the top minds in the world of diabetes care. Hosted by Dr. Char.
Good morning. How are you, Shawn?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to talk to you today.
Well, it's good talking to you.
Shawn Porter is a member of the clergy in North Carolina. He's a musician, he's a singer, and he's my nephew. I think that's a disclaimer. Maybe that's what we should say.
Lucky you or lucky me?
Maybe both.
Oh.
He's my only sister's baby boy, and he's pretty special to me. But the reason I am interviewing Shawn today is because of his journey with diabetes, and I want to hear all about it. Shawn, could you tell us how that journey began and where you are currently?
Well, it began in 2016. That's where it was. I should say that's where it was diagnosed. Was in 2016. To be honest with you, prior to that, I don't know how long. I'm sure a while. You know how stubborn we can be. But in 2016, I went to the doctor, had blood work done, and was diagnosed as a diabetic with an A1C of 10.7.
Wow.
I was severely overweight. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't eat right. Just living life in that aspect, just living life, eating when I want to. I'm young, I've got this. And so that's where the journey began. And it's been a struggle ever since, up, down, up, down. You get serious for a while, when you hear the doctor say that, you get serious for a while and, well, I'm going to do this. And so you'll lose a few pounds and watch what you eat. And then you get to feeling good and you think you're okay. So you slip right back into the old habits. And it's gone on since then. I was able to bring my A1C down some from that, because I was more, once he told me you are diabetic, it is in your mind. So I was able to bring my A1C down some, but never down to where it was supposed to be until about, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. I don't remember exactly when. But he told me they wanted to put me on, they wanted me to give myself shots from the very beginning. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't interested in that. I told him I was not going to do that. And I was just being stubborn. But about a year and a half ago or so, I went back to the doctor and he told me, he said, if I'm type 2 diabetic. He said, if you don't do something, you could be looking at a type 1 diabetic within the next year or two. And so I decided, well, you know what? I can either be bound to this forever or I can begin to do something about it. So I began working on it for about a year and a half, 2 years now, I guess. I've lost 60 pounds. I went to the doctor probably about a year ago it's probably been a couple of years because I went to the doctor about a year ago after I'd lost the weight. And he did blood work, checked my A1C again, and my A1C was 5.3. And so he said, let's do this again in 3 months just to make sure that. So I went back in 3 months and he checked it again. It's 5.5. So he told me, he said, according to your numbers, you're no longer diabetic. So he scheduled me for an annual visit. So I just went back to my annual visit just, I don't know, maybe a month ago. He checked my A1C again. It's still 5. I think it was 5.6.
Wow.
So it's been a struggle. Diabetes is people that's never struggled with it, people that's never struggled with weight, people that's never struggled with diabetes. It's hard to explain. Those that have never struggled, it's easy for them to say, well, just do this. But it's something, a lot of it's psychological. A lot of it for me has been psychological over the years because I hate to make this sound corny, but I could eat a Snickers bar today and be okay tomorrow. But you got to have the mindset that eventually that's going to cause major damage. Mm-hmm. And that's the hard part when you're feeling good. And like now I got the weight off, feeling great, got my diabetes under control. keeping that mindset that I've got to keep doing this, or I'm going to be right back in the same shape that I was in. And that's the hard part for me personally. That's been the struggle with diabetes.
Well, first of all, I've said it before on personal calls, but congratulations. That's a huge feat. And I like to think of it as reversing type 2 diabetes. That's what you've done. That's what you've done. You're not managing it. You are being mindful and watchful so that it doesn't come back. But he said you are no longer carrying diabetes.
Yeah.
Your blood sugar is at a good level. Now, the difference with someone that does do insulin and someone that didn't, somebody that does insulin might can bolus and help that Snickers bar for now. But you had not being on insulin, you didn't even have that option. So the mindset had to be choose right, choose well.
Yeah.
And you get 119 opportunities to eat every day. And you say struggle and people don't understand it. Boy, don't we get a lot of good advice. We get a lot of good advice, and people mean well. People mean well, but how frustrating can that get?
Yeah, until you walk in those shoes, though, it's difficult. I refused the insulin, but I was on 3 different medications.
And you're not on anything now? Nothing.
Took me off all of my medication. Plus I was on cholesterol medicine too. And I'm off everything.
And tell us how old you are.
Well, September the 8th, I will be 45 years old.
And dealt with diabetes for longer than 5 or 6 years, just hadn't addressed it. I feel sure I can say that. You dealt with it longer than that.
You've known me since I was a child, and you've seen how I lived. You've seen the weight I struggled with all my life. I don't know how long before 2016 that I do know. Once I realized that I was a diabetic, I do know some of those sensations you have when your sugar goes extremely high, and I would have it bottom out sometimes as well. I do know that I felt those long before 2016. I just never went to the doctor
and learned about it. Yeah, it's even with type 1 children, there's research that shows they dealt with it long before it was diagnosed, and that can be dangerous. It can be life-threatening in those moments, and still they dealt with it before it became. Now, amenability is what I call willing to fall off the wagon and get back up. Fall off the wagon and get back up. You say you kept slipping for those first few years. Did having a dad with diabetes, having an aunt with diabetes, having it all around, because 1 of 3 have it in our country today. Growing up with that familiarity around you, do you think that kept you from digging in right at first? Or was it simply that you would really try and then fall off and really try again and fall off? What made you not have the amenability right at first? Do you have any idea?
No, because like you say, I mean, I've seen you, my dad, my great grandmother, your grandmother, what she went through. A gentleman I went to church with, loved dearly. Diabetes had taken his sight in his 40s. Seen him every day. So I knew what the long-term effect could do to me. But still, when you're living life day by day, if I don't care what you walk through in life. I don't care what you walk through, circumstances in life, your spiritual life, your mind plays such an important role in that. Keeping your mind in the right place. That's the same way with diabetes. That's the same way with your family. You've got to keep your mind in the game. When we begin thinking, I've got this, you're going to start slipping. And that's where I was at. I mean, I would really try and I would do good for a few days, but I think, oh, I'm okay. I've got this, and I would go slipping back. This time, that's the thing that I've worked most on. The weight came off. I mean, the weight just it came off. That was no problem. I've never had an issue when I really try to drop the weight. I can drop the weight, no problem at all. My issue's always been keeping it under control.
Mm.
And that all goes back, it's like I said earlier, to me, it's all everything with these diabetes, for me personally, I can't speak for everyone, but the psychological part's been the hardest thing for me, is thinking, well, I've got it under control, so I can do this today and I'll be all right. And when you do that today, well, so I can do that again tomorrow, and and then it becomes then you start bringing those old habits back in,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that you can do something that you've never been able to do before in the past. So I've just tried to completely, I don't like the word diet because I've tried every one of them out there. It's honestly been a lifestyle change for me. And I have the most awesome wife in the world, because she is as healthy can be, but she has learned how to cook differently. She's an old soul country cooking girl, but she's learned how to cook differently and is doing that, and even eating that herself, just to help me. And so I've got accountability with her, plus support with her to help me because if I had to do this all alone, I couldn't. And she helps me stay focused as far as when we have supper or whatever, she cooks the way that she knows I can eat. Even sometimes if her and my daughter want something different, she will still make sure that I have what I need to be able to be successful with this. And that's been my whole thing this time, is staying focused to the point of understanding if I start slipping, I'm going to be back in the same place I was in a few years ago, because I've done it time and time again. I think I've got it, and then I go slipping and find myself right back. So that's been the thing with me, is not so much losing the weight, it's keeping it under control, continuing to eat what I know that I can to keep my diabetes under control.
So not a human living hasn't fallen off the wagon and hasn't slipped because of those 119 opportunities to eat every day. You have to choose what to take in or what not. So I'm sure you've not done it perfect, and you choose a food once in a while that you take a bite of that you don't live on regularly. And when you do that, that choice has to already have a mindset ready that you're not going to fall again and not going to stay down. Because once you've got it off, you're not worried about what 1 pound will do. It's about those things that keep adding and keep adding and keep adding. Let's talk about Amanda for a minute. Not everybody, I hope you're grateful, and I know you are, but not everybody has that kind of support. But yet, if you do have that kind of support, it's so much to be grateful for. Your uncle called me just a few minutes ago to see if I was going to have hummus and rye crackers for my lunch, making sure, because I'm on interviews all day, making sure that I had what I needed. Those of us that have support, we really do need to be appreciative, because the things that you didn't take time to do, the research on what you should eat and what you could have, she did that for you. But I don't care how much she works and how hard she does it. You had to make that decision for yourself. And if it was one decision, that'd be great, wouldn't it? I mean, I have lost and gained this excess weight 3 times in my adult life. I mean, that's hard work. This blonde's not natural. That's hard work. And then go gain it again. So I'm proud of you. I'm so thankful for you and the decisions you're making to what I call falling off the wagon. If every time I would get back on right then, but I had a history of once I fell off the wagon, I stayed off. I couldn't get myself back on for a while. And the thing is, if you eat something inappropriate today, right then, you are the boss of your choices. You are the boss of your emotions, and you are the boss of what thoughts you allow in and what not. Sometimes you have to get away from those Snicker bars.
Right.
And you have to go in another room if Maddie has one. You have to do something with your thoughts, maybe with your emotions, not let a victim or a bully guide you. You know, there's sometimes those thoughts come along that say, well, ain't nobody gonna tell me what I have to eat. There's a lot of patients that deal with diabetes in that way. And those bully thoughts and those chicken and victim thoughts come and go. If we don't do anything with them, they don't harm us.
Listen, I have found in this journey in my life, it is no different than anything else that we're going to be successful in life. It takes hard work, dedication, and commitment. The Olympics are happening this year. Matter of fact, they're going on. Those guys didn't make it to Tokyo without putting in the hard work, the commitment, and the dedication to get there. It's the same way with us. It takes hard work. And there is a lot, the thing that I have found is there is a lot of great alternatives out there. I have a huge sweet tooth. I've got to have sweets. I mean, that's just, I love sweets. And I can't take credit for it because I can barely put together a bologna sandwich. But my wife has learned how to fulfill that craving for me, but in a more healthy way. And I'm telling you, they are quite good. I mean, she has made me desserts. As a matter of fact, I sat down and ate some ice cream last night and enjoyed every bite of it. But it takes work to find those alternatives.
Yeah.
And be committed enough to say, we go to Israel every year. I love going to Israel. I love taking groups over there. And one thing that I noticed over there is they take so much time. Every time they go to eat, they take so much time to prepare those meals. We live in such a fast-paced society that we want everything at our fingertips. Now, am I going to go home and take the time to find those alternatives and put that dessert together, or just run through Krispy Kreme and get me a cream-filled donut?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it takes that dedication, that hard work that a lot of people, they want to put that commitment and hard work into everything else and not themselves. And when it comes down to it, I am created in the image of my God. I am worth saving. And not only that, I have a 17-year-old daughter who deserves better from her dad than making his life short just because he wants convenience. And that's what a lot of it's been, is just convenience. It's just a lot easier to swing through somewhere, grab something. And it takes, diabetes is no different than training for the Olympics. Diabetes is no different than studying for a message that I'm going to preach on Sunday morning. It takes work, it takes dedication, it takes commitment. And that should follow us in every aspect of our life. And this myself is the biggest place where that lacked in my life, was taking care of what I needed to do to be healthy for myself.
Well, and that too, while it takes discipline, if we were just having to be disciplined, and sometimes when I looked at it that way, that made falling off the wagon easier. But the discipline, it sure takes hard work, and you can't do it without it. But I also hear you talk about a heart posture. If anybody, let me say clearly, if anybody ever had a 17-year-old reason to take care of themselves for the right purpose and for somebody else, that'd be you. You have a daughter that is so worth it, that is amazing in her own rights, needs to see a father that is not just caring for her through his life, but will be the example in the culture we live, where what you eat is full of processed foods, and it's just been our culture. And we're in a world where we want it fast and we want it easy. And Maddie has a mom that shows her how to grow her own food and shows her how to prepare her own food and teaches her through an example of how to research. If you don't know, if you're in a culture, in a place where it's not working well, figure it out. And so it is about discipline. It is so about that. But if it sounds too hard for discipline to be the go-to place, then a heart posture that you've just described has to be a help.
Discipline, the discipline to me that goes back to the psychological part of it. You've got to keep it forefront of your mind. And if you do that, then it will get down into your heart. Then it will become a heart thing. But all of that has to work together.
Oh, absolutely.
One or the other. It all has to work together. And let's be honest, if there's one thing if I'm going to fail one person in life, it's not going to be my wife. It's not going to be my daughter. It's not going to be my family. It's not going to be my church. It's going to be me. And we are not to be self-centered people, but we do need to understand that we are created in the image of God as well. And if I'm going to continue to be there for all of those that I just mentioned, I had better take care of myself so I can do that.
Oh, absolutely. That's a good place to stop. I so appreciate you coming and talking to me about it, because I've watched the journey for you. And because I love you so much, I feel the journey for you. And I've watched you when I was successful, so I know what that feels like. And I've watched you in my own falling short, and I know what that feels like. So you've been an encouragement. You've always been a little boy I love so good. But watching you as a man and a dad and changing the world one person at a time, just everybody you meet. And then to know as well. Well, let me just address the elephant in the room a minute before we go. Church, where you spend most of your life, it's about, one sin that we don't have to worry about. We can do there, and that's gluttony.
We are remodeling right now at the church, and you've got to love the little old ladies in the church. They want to feed us every day, and that's the gospel truth. Sometimes they don't understand. They bring pies and the greatest food in the world, and they don't always understand. And you have to be strong and say, no, thank you. But now I have to say, matter of fact, today they're back there and they wanted to fix food for us because we're working at church. They're fixing grilled chicken, green beans, and I've already been asked this morning, now you can eat this, right? So if we just stand strong, other people will come around.
That's true. That is the perfect place to stop. Thank you so much for joining us. And how can people reach you if they want to reach out to you? What do you have? Social medias? Do you have an email address? What do you have where people can find you?
I do have social media. You can find me on Facebook. That's the only social media I have. And I'm not very good at that, but I am on Facebook.
Just Shawn Porter?
Just Shawn Porter. And you can email me at porterfamilymusic@gmail.com.
And that's a place you could hear that pretty voice. And I might say one of the best. Well, I love you, buddy. Thanks for joining me today.